It's time for Push2Plat, your weekly trophy podcast with Mindi and CJ.
Hello, listeners. It is wonderful to be with you again, a day apart. But for you listening, it will be probably a week apart. But for Mindi and myself, it is a very quick turnaround today. But look, I'm energized. She's awake, which is impressive because, Mindi, I know it is very, very early in America at the moment. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, deja vu. It's almost like we just recorded yesterday. Got a weird temporal thing going on because, everyone's going to hear it a week later, but
yes,
I don't know what else to talk about.
Well, the funny thing is I feel like I've been trapped in a void, listeners, because we recorded, it literally was a day ago, wasn't it, Mindi? It was a long episode, and it was preceded by a long conversation, which we didn't record as well. And then I spent last night and a good portion of this morning editing it. So I feel intimately acquainted, Mindi, with your voice at the moment. I feel like I haven't had a break at all. So it's kind of nice for me, actually. But
I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all. Now, listeners, I did not drop the episode number. It is episode 41. Let me throw some numbers at you. Today, we have a wonderful returning guest, Afraid of the Folly. Now, he was with us. You might be saying, I remember that name. Well, he first graced our presence in episode 16, Gaming for Positive Change, which was a really in-depth, I think we can say, look at mental health and how gaming can be used in a positive way. So if you're interested in today's episode, I would recommend going back and listening to that one if you haven't. It was a special episode. But look, without further ado, let me introduce to you returning guest, Afraid of the Folly. He is a PlayStation 4 gamer. He is a new arrival, visa stamped for Vita Island, I understand. He is a sometimes streamer. I hope I can say sometimes. He plays everything that I don't play, basically, listeners. So we are in for a treat here today, I think. Folly, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks, CJ. I'm a little bit tired. I was at a wedding last night, so apologies if I sound a bit croaky. But I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Not at all. Look, I'm impressed. As I said before we started, I'm impressed you're even conscious. So I do I do appreciate it. So look, Mindi, should we do the name question to start us off with? Because we never did that before when Folly joined us.
That's true. First, actually, Folly, can you please say to me, welcome to this week's Folly's Corner?
Welcome to this week's Folly's Corner.
Oh, I've missed that.
Too kind.
So since you've been on, I have pushed through a segment where if you're cool with giving your PSN name or just your internet name, we want to know the story behind the name.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because I was actually an early adopter of the PSN name change. So I've had two PSN names. My first one in a previous life was Halt End Hero 88, which the reason for that one was just because my local football team, and when I say football, I obviously mean soccer to most people listening, I'm sure, is a team called Aston Villa, based in Birmingham, and the famous part of the ground for Aston Villa is called the Halt End, and that's where all the singing comes from, and all the sort of diehard fans apparently sit. So that was when I set my original PSN name up. That was the one I went with, and then the reason I went with Afraid of the Folly, it was going back a few years now. I very briefly dabbled with the idea of making some music, just in like GarageBand, some like sort of I was really into a lot of like EDM and drum and bass and things at the time, and I briefly flirted with the idea of trying to make my own. And when I was thinking of like what I would release it under, I went with Afraid of the Folly because I was essentially, it was the fear of actually putting something that you've made out there into the world for people to look at and to judge, and just being afraid of all the silliness and the drama that can create. I settled on that name. I set up the Twitter handle as well, Afraid of the Folly. And then I think in total I made about 30 seconds of music before I realized that I'm not very good at that. So I gave it up. And then when I jumped into streaming at the start of this year, I thought, well, the same principle applies. I'm still putting myself out there for people to shout at me on the internet. So I'll stick with the name. It seemed quite appropriate, and I've not looked back since.
Wow, that's really deep.
That's a good story.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing. That is great.
I think I have to say, I think my favorites was it Zach, who was like, it would not give me the name I wanted, so I just bashed my hand on the keyboard, and that was the name I
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot. I like that one a lot as well.
Do you think there must be a lot of people now that you can, like, Follow, you mentioned there you change your name, but now we have the option to keep your account and change your name. I think it's free once and then a small fee to Sony or whatever. Do you think there's a lot of people now that are like, the people that wanted to change their name have gone ahead and done it? Do you think there's like a name anxiety? They want to change their name, but they just don't know what to change it to. Do you think it's built up to a thing now?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. It depends. Like, obviously, PSN going back as far as it did, I think there'll be a lot of people that are really glad of that, because I reckon there's a lot of embarrassed people that are like mid to late 20s that have to give their name as like some like sort of early 2000s Fallout Boy reference or something, that they're like, yeah, I really wish.
Or like the capital and lowercase letters with all the underscores in them.
Yeah, all that sort of thing, and it's just like, oh god, what, I was such an idiot back then. So I'm sure it's a much relief to, because there's nothing worse. It's the same. I mean, I've got like a normal email address now, but my first email address was just absolutely horrific. And you just, as an adult, you have to say, oh yeah, I'll drop you an email. What's your email address? And you have to go, oh, it was 2pack_ Fallout Boy / and it's just absolutely horrific. So yeah, it's definitely a welcome change.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it works both ways, because I look at some people's names now and I'm like, why would you choose that? Like, oh, they haven't changed. I'm like, why have you not changed that? But look, I'm sure they look at my name and go, what does that even mean? Look at this arrogance. So look, I think it cuts both ways. So look, why don't we, listeners? It's going to be a little bit of a relaxed conversation, because for once, this is in a time zone or time frame that is sort of normal for me here at 7 p.m. So bear with me, I'm gonna slowly warm up here. I think we'll hit the ground running.
Because we unfortunately we dragged CJ, poor little CJ, out of his swimming pool to do this podcast.
Well, as any Australian listener would know, the bar has been well and truly open here for an hour in Australia. So I did beverage up before we started. So I expect a more natural flow as the episode goes on. Look, now just to keep everyone a little bit uncomfortable, we did settle on a general talking point, which we're going to get to in a second, because it's very interesting, suggested by Folly. In fact, listeners, Folly has basically planned out this episode, which is fantastic. So I data mined him for everything we needed before we started. But look, it would be remiss of me not to finally use that word. It has been a while, listeners, not to throw us all a little off center. Now, Folly, we're not going to share too much personal information, but as many of our listeners know, you've recently been married. Congratulations.
Yes.
And commiserations. No, of course. And so what I thought is, it's very important to get your first marriage behind you. Otherwise, how can you get married 3, 4, or 5 times? So the first question for today, I thought, Mindi, and this is for all of us, is, and we'll make it video game topical. If you could marry one video game character, who would the character be?
Oh, that's a tough one.
If there's more than one, then you can mention them.
Yeah. Okay.
Ooh, that is hard.
I think I've got 2.
That is acceptable. Not in England, but we're liberal here. It's acceptable.
So I think I've got 2. One of them I'm a little bit ashamed of, and it very much goes back to early childhood memories and sort of being an impressionable teenager. And I've always had a bit of a thing for Chun-Li, if I'm honest.
Oh, that's understandable.
And yeah, so the obvious male answer would definitely be Chun-Li. But then second, one of the last games I streamed before I took the break that I'm currently on was Until Dawn. And Mike, male character, we all thought was a little bit dreamy. He looked like he gave good hugs. So I reckon Mike from Until Dawn as well.
Ooh,
I was a big fan of him.
that's a solid pick. A pick. Yeah, I like that. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Is Mike the one that was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Like, that was the one who's actually had kind of a career?
Oh, I don't know. The only actor I recognised from Until Dawn was Remy Malik. He was the only one I knew. But I don't watch a lot of TV, so I didn't know. I think maybe one of the female characters was from Heroes. Someone told me, I think, as well.
Yeah, that's Hayden Pan. That's the main girl,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
And I am right. This is it's the guy who was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I might have to watch that. He's clearly very dreamy. I'm a big fan.
See, Folly, isn't it wonderful to have the female perspective? The first question is, what's his job? How much money does he make? Oh, yeah, I could see that. I like it. I like it. Mindi.
Mine aren't strictly video game characters. One did not start as a video game character, but has had video games made of him, and that would be Bruce Wayne, because he's super rich and he's never there. So basically, I just get a whole house to myself.
That's good.
Very good.
I mean, it's true, isn't it? He's,
Yeah.
he's just never home. And then in the same vein, I got my girl Laura Croft, because she's super rich and she's never there.
Yeah, good shout.
So again, you get this nice stately, either stately Wayne Manor in Gotham, but like Gotham's kind of crime ridden, so maybe I don't want to live there.
Yeah.
But Laura's got like the English chalet, and she's never freaking there because she's raiding tombs.
And I suppose it'd be similar, like with Lara Croft, and the same with Nathan Drake as well. You could accompany them on these expeditions, but stay by the pool when they're off raiding the tombs and climbing the rocks and stuff.
Exactly.
So you get the exotic locations without actually having to risk your life.
But you got to be careful with Drake, though, because if you're by the pool, he's going to want to play Marco Polo with you.
No,
All
that's
4
true.
games have showed us that.
That's true. That's true. Can I ask, does Lara Croft, this is showing my ignorance, does she have like a butler in that house like Batman does? That or is that not a...
Yes, she does.
Ooh, very nice.
Yeah, she does. There was a really, so on the PlayStation 1, I used to have Tomb Raider 2. It's one of my, like, easily one of my top 10 games. I absolutely adore that game. But there was almost like a sort of like a training mode, and I think there was some secrets where you were in the Croft Manor, and there was a butler, like this really old butler that was carrying a tray.
I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, the tray would like rattle and stuff. And then obviously after a few hours running around the manor, you got a little bit bored. So me and my friends used to lock him in the freezer. There was a big walk-in freezer that you could open, stand in there, and then when he came in, run out and shut him in. But the bad side of that is that the way they'd program the game or develop the game, that sort of clinking tray sound would still follow you absolutely everywhere you go. So he'd be locked in the freezer.
He would haunt you.
Yeah, we'd be the other side of the manor, and we could still hear him like groaning and the tray rattling, and it was terrifying. And we used to think he was just like going to jump out on us at any moment, but he was always still in the freezer when we went to check.
That's fantastic.
You put him in the freezer, it killed him, and he haunted you.
Still to this day.
there truly is something about just messing with a game, isn't there? I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like that, Mindi. That's solid. Well, look, for me, listeners, I have 3. So, look, my characteristic and ideal partner is someone that's indecisive, that's unsure, that is questioning themselves, questioning everything sort of around them, and I suppose a little bit backwards at being forwards, which is ironic because in real life, those people give me the absolute shits. I think that, in an ideal world, that's the perfect thing. But in reality, like after you spend a couple of weeks with them, it's dreadful. It's dreadful. But following that line across, I would have to go with Noctis, because the younger Noctis in the early game, because who wouldn't? Like just the black, it's the goth look without being goth. It's the too young to understand, like too mentally young to cope with what he's got and his evolution. I'm not so much into the older one, but when he discovers everything, but that younger one, I love that indecision. Then of course Kirito from Sword Art Online, just because why not? A similar character, I suppose, that's, you know, weak and, well, not definitely not weak in real life, but sort of unsure, you know, about himself. But then in that game, just so when he's in the AI game, so powerful, so decisive, so mentally strong to carry them all. And to be honest, listeners, you see him look at Asuna, you know there's nothing really there. That's just the Disney-esque element, I'm sure. And then finally, now this is an unusual one, perhaps because this is not a human, although I suppose it's a humanoid, is 9S from Nier Automata. Now, I don't know, am I the only one that's played that game?
I really want to play it. I'm told by everyone I need to play it, but I've not jumped into it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic game, but you can't actually play as him until sort of, you know, 2/3 of the way through the game, and you play as 2B for the you know, the opening of the game. It's not until that latter section, and it's just great to see how dominated he is. I love this image, Folly, and this is an image if you're not used to now, you will be soon, of being dominated by a woman. Yeah, you know that she tells him exactly what to do, and he does it, and I think that is just so adorable. It's adorable. Yeah. And he's sort of, you know, this secret pining, but never. So I find that very, very cute and adorable, listeners. So look at that. You know, none of the. It's a good mix of characters. I think we would all be very happy. You know, and it would be a great way for us to rack up a few more marriages as well. So that doesn't hurt. But look, let's move quickly to the serious talking point that we were going to talk about, and that was because the holidays are coming up, listeners. Some of us have, you know, longer holidays than others, depending on what hemisphere of the world that you're in at the moment. But you know, everyone has some holidays coming up. It's a great time to get some gaming in. So I thought, Mindi, we'd ask, and Folly is a little prepared here, maybe one or two or more, if you wish, games that you're looking forward to playing in this holiday break. So why don't we start with you, Folly, seeing you're prepared?
Yeah. So, well, I won't spoil it for later on when you scour my trophy list, but I've recently got a platinum on the PS4, so that's sort of, I want to take a break from longer games on the PlayStation 4. I think I'm just going to crank out a couple of easy ones. I think I've got one, maybe two rat games in my library. And also, I'd be interested to know if you guys use this as well. I've got I use the Trophy Advisor on PSN Profiles, which I really like a lot, that basically lists all your unearned trophies, but by percentage completion on PSN Profiles. So you can essentially see the low-hanging fruit. And I've got a few games that I sort of started. I'm probably never going to platinum, but there's a few like bronze and silver trophies that are like 50 to 40% completion percentages. So I think I'm just going to spend on the PS4 anyway, I'm going to spend the Christmas break just picking up some old games that I'd sort of dropped months ago and just picking some of those easy trophies off and giving them an airing. But then also the reason I want to do that is because, as you mentioned, I've recently got a Vita, and I've just started Persona 4 Golden. I'm like about 5 hours in to that, and that's definitely going to be my big undertaking for over the Christmas break. My now wife is actually she's working a lot over Christmas, unfortunately, in the evenings, so I can sit there with the TV on and play some Persona 4. I think
You're half right. Your correct answer should have been whatever Mindi tells me to buy for my Vita is what I will be working on over the holiday break.
After Persona 4, I've told you, 6 months from now, I will have Persona 4 finished for the first time, and you can give me a list of games that I can pick up.
Now, Mindi, I'm sure, you know, I know you have a large backlog. I'm sure there must be one or two things out of that you're interested in. I mean, we have the better part of 3 weeks to go before your window on the PS3 backlog closes. What will you be playing?
Shut up.
Over this next
Of course, that PS3 backlog is getting drawn out to 2020. Of course it is. So my new goal is to do that. I can't buy a PS5 until I finish what I've declared my PS3 backlog.
Oh, that's good. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
How many games is that, Mindi?
Well, not as many as it used to be. So my PS3 backlog used to be all of the PS3 games I own. But now it is all of the ones I've loaded on my profile, plus Aquanauts Memories, because I definitely want to get that one squared away, but I haven't put that on my profile yet.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So is there one or two titles you're planning to dip into on this holiday break?
I might nothing concrete really. I might finally break out Lego Worlds and do that, just so I can have all the
Ugh.
Lego games done. I'm just kind of looking at my shelf right now. Horizon Zero Dawn is still staring right at me.
Mm. Yeah.
I know that'll make you happy, CJ.
Look, that's where it belongs, on the shelf.
I don't really nothing is really calling out to me. But, I keep passing up Lego Worlds. Every time I think of starting a new long game, I'm like, I should do that Lego game. Agent A, I think I brought this up with Velvet. Every time I go to start a new game, I'm like, oh, is it Agent A time? And then I get distracted by something else. So I think listeners hold me to this, that I at least do Agent A before January.
That seems reasonable. And look, listeners, I would be fascinated to hear if you have something that you're holding on to. I have a bit of this is our long break in Australia, this break, so a little bit longer than perhaps our friends here on the podcast today. So I've lined up a few things. I'm looking obviously forward to getting further into Final Fantasy 12. I've put a few hours into it now, but it's a game. Talking before with Folly, it's really a game you just can't play for an hour. You need bigger sessions. So I'm looking forward to having the time to do that. Also, the NGVN, which is the prequel to Deathmark. I'm very much looking forward to reading that. That's a similar situation. Just need...
Hey, you got the name right.
Yes, I know. I know. Yeah, you're right. Similar situation. Just need some...
You never get the name right.
No. It's the advantage of being lubricated before you do this. It helps. So, whoa. So, where were we? NG. So, I did start that as well. It touches all the same sort of elements that Deathmark did. So, I'm looking forward to having a day or two. I believe, Mindi, it's a bit longer as well this time. So, we'll see how that goes. And then also Quantum Break on the Xbox, mainly because I've never played it and I was a big fan of Control this year. So I'm very interested to see that earlier game from Remedy there and see.
That's one that I wish was not an exclusive, because I do want to play that. Or at least hopefully it comes to PC. Like, I really wanted to play what was it called? D4? Dreams Don't Die, something like that. And it was an Xbox exclusive for the longest time, and it finally came out on PC, so that's when I bought it. But I really wish it was on PlayStation, and Quantum Break is on that list of mine as well, of exclusive games that I would like to come to console.
Yeah, I think from what I've read of it, I think it'll be a game that I'll either see the whole way through, or I'll know within an hour that I don't want to play it. So I'll give it a go. There's obviously last week, listeners, if you survive, we did a massive indie episode. There are still games there. I'm sure that Mindi and I are still picking through as well. So that will be great to see. Drop Bear Simulator. I'd like to get further into that. I haven't really had much time for that yet. A little dangerous, but I'm looking forward to that as well. And then of course
Quantum Break is like a television show tie-in. Like, it's meant to be.
I know, yes.
I think it's meant to be kind of a simultaneous thing with the TV show.
Yes, well, the TV show's within the game, so you watch it as you go.
Oh, is it like the not Top Gear?
Oh, you're thinking of the racing game, yeah.
Yeah. It's not Top Gear anymore. What's it called now?
Grand Tour.
Thank you, Grand Tour.
Yeah. No, this is actually, that was separate. You didn't have to, I suppose there were sections of the show, yes, that's true, in it, but this is, you actually play some of the game and then the game completely stops and you watch the episode. You have to, and then the game continues again. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. We will see. So look, that's plenty of games there. We're going to be busy. But look, why don't we look at what we're actually playing now? And let's start with you, Folly. I believe Mindi and I are in good vulture form today. We are ready to pick apart your list. It's been a while, but let's let you start. What would you like to talk about?
My latest platinum from last night, I believe, was Doom 2016. That's been good. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I think the problem was I heard great things and I was really looking forward to playing it, but it was the next big game I played after Titanfall 2, and I think 2 shooters in a row was a little bit too much. And obviously, I enjoyed Titanfall 2 more than Doom, so I always think that's a problem. If you're playing 2 similar games, the second game has to be better than the game you've just played. Otherwise, you can't help but compare them side by side. But it's been good, and it didn't take me long. It took a couple of weeks. I'd definitely recommend it. It's an easy game for people to get through. Have you guys played that one?
I've played a little. I'm going to ask you a question here because I've not played Titanfall 2, so I don't know here. But in comparison, when I played Doom, I found, and I mean, you know, it's known for it. It's a very fast game. Like things coming at you fast, you're moving fast.
Yeah.
Is Titanfall 2 as fast as that, or is it more paced?
It can be in sections. I suppose it depends what difficulty you play on, because I went for the platinum in Titanfall 2, you have to play on the veteran difficulty or to get I think there's a trophy for completing the game on veteran. And so that automatically limits you to a certain degree, unless you're a very, very good shooter player, which I am not. You have to do a little bit of cover and things like that. Not so much as like a Call of Duty, which whenever I play those on the harder difficulties, I always feel like I'm in cover and just sort of popping out. There's no running and gunning, and there is a bit of that in Titanfall 2, even on those hard difficulties. But I think the big thing is obviously Titanfall 2 has the wall running, so it's maybe a similar sort of pace, but you've got that verticality that you're sort of running across the walls and jumping off and trying to do a lot more acrobatics, whereas Doom's fast, but it's all on the ground pretty much. You've got the double jump, but I never really use that much in combat. Yeah, it is a fast game, but I'd probably say Doom is faster.
Okay, interesting. And then, of course, this game is renowned.
Are you going to do the DLC?
Yeah.
For Doom, no. I'm done with Doom. I think to be honest, I did really enjoy the multiplayer. I was panicking because I logged on. I think the boys woke me up far too early one morning and I couldn't sleep, so I put them back to bed. And I think it was about 4 a.m. And I came downstairs and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try the Doom multiplayer just because it's quick to pop those couple of trophies. And I put it on and there was just no one online. And I was like, oh, it's dead. Like, that's a shame. But obviously it was just because of the server I was on. No one was on at 4 a.m. because why would you be unless you're me? So then I tried again that evening, and I think we only ever managed to get like 5 people into a game. I think it's like maximum 8 or something like that. And I had a great time. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. It was good fun. But to do the DLC with just like 5 people in a lobby, or to boost it, I'm just not interested. I don't think I've got it in me.
That's fair enough. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Next.
So the last trophy I actually earned, which I earned yesterday morning, was Apex Legends. I reached player level 50. So that was a silver trophy. I'm massively into Apex Legends at the moment. I will try not to bore you guys with it because I know I go on about it far too much in the Discord and those sorts of things. But it's if anyone doesn't know, it's a free-to-play battle royale game, which I know is probably most gamers' 2 worst sentences that you can possibly hear: free-to-play and battle royale. But it's very, very good. It's made by Respawn, who made Titanfall 2 and recently Jedi Fallen Order, and it's fantastic. It launched back in February, start of this year, and it was one of those where I think there was like a press conference or a direct or something, and it was like, oh, there's some news coming, and they literally just said, here's this new game, here's a trailer, it's available now. And I got caught up in the hype, downloaded it immediately, and then sort of played the training mode and was like, no, I'm playing this other game at the moment. And I never really jumped into it because I've never really been one for online gaming and competitive gaming. But then a couple of, maybe 4 months ago or so, a friend of mine who I don't get to see as much as I used to because obviously family commitments and those sorts of things, he messaged and was like, oh, we should play some PlayStation together because he loves gaming as well. So I was like, yeah, great. And we were going to start Borderlands 2 because I think it was the PlayStation Plus game at the time. And I sort of went, yeah, that's fine. Like, that's a co-op game that we've both got. But in the back of my mind, I was like, that's another game I'm going to have to platinum. Like, he doesn't trophy hunt, so it doesn't bother him. But I was like, I'm going to play this, pop a trophy, and then it's just going to be sat on my profile, irritating me that I need to get the platinum. So I was looking through, and I was like, oh, actually, Apex Legends, because that's got like I think it's like 9 or 10 trophies. I was like, if that sits on my profile, that's not going to bother me. And there's no platinum, so happy days. And we started playing it, and just we're currently sort of like playing at least once a week, if not twice a week. And it's just great. It's a friend that like I say, well, I don't get to see him in person as much as I'd like to, so we just get in party chat and hang out and play, and it's fantastic.
I'm going to take a sidebar here, listeners, because there's something I've been wanting to ask you for a while. You're falling into in fact, you're deeply in this stage, I believe, at this point. You're falling into this stage of the gamer where you're being exposed to a lot of games, and you want to play everything. And you're starting some very long games like Persona 4 Golden and all these sort of things. So what I'm interested in, which look, more power to you, is fantastic. Have you also come to the dark side where you're not really worried about the platinum anymore? You're just going to play it for the game, and then because it's just something like Persona 4, there's a big difference between playing the story once and getting the plat in time difference and things like that. Have you come to that point, or are you still with the mentality that you're going to try and plat all these things as well?
No, I very much. I think there was a game a few months ago. I started playing Wild Arms 3. In fact, I think I might have been playing it last time I was on the podcast, so that shows how long ago it was. And at that point, I was very much in a, right, if I start something, I'm going for the platinum. And I really, after about 20, 30 hours with Wild Arms 3, I was just like, you know what, I'm not enjoying this. And I dropped it altogether. And that sort of made me think, and I was like, if there's a game that I really want to play, but I know I'm not going to get the platinum in it, like, I shouldn't let that stop me playing the game. So I decide beforehand, and if I decide beforehand I'm going to get the plat, I will definitely try as hard as I can for that. But I've got, like, I think I bought Witcher 3 in a few sales ago for like £7. And I'm just not going to platinum that game. Like, it's just not going to happen, because it's like 100 odd hours apparently. So, but I do still want to play it because everyone says what an incredible game it is. So I can't limit myself to only playing games that I think I'll get the plat on, because obviously with 3 kids at home and things like that, it's like my gaming time is probably 10 hours a week, something like that, maybe like 10, 11 hours. And so if I'm going to try and platinum a 100-hour game, like, forget about it. That's going to be half the year gone. With Persona 4, I'm definitely going to finish a playthrough. Whether I then go back for the plat, I'm not sure, but that's the added bonus that it's on the Vita. So, I don't need the TV, because we've only got one TV in the house. So I don't need the TV. I don't even need to be downstairs. I can just be like out and about and just have the Vita with me and just keep chipping away at it. So we'll see how I get on, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect game for a portable. Yeah, no, that's excellent. Well, welcome to the non-completionist side. Your completion percentage is a little high, but it's close enough to acceptable range now.
Thank you.
I can
That
welcome
does mean
you.
a lot.
Yeah, no, it's very liberating. You can play everything now. Well done. Now,
while we're just on the subject of Apex Legends as well, because I've been thinking about this recently, I actually, with Apex Legends, I buy the season pass every season as well, which is about £8 in the UK, and I think it's similar everywhere else, obviously, to like level up and unlock cosmetics and things. And I do think that while it got me thinking about, you get sort of like your daily challenges and your weekly challenges and all those sorts of things. And actually, I've noticed that completing those challenges gives me the same sort of satisfaction that trophy hunting does. And I did want to mention it because I think that a lot of these daily challenges, you can say a lot about games as a service and free-to-play games in a negative light. But the one thing I do like is I think that the challenge element, it actually does what trophies tried to do originally, in that it makes you play the game different ways. So, for instance, with Apex Legends, you get challenges like, oh, land in this area on the map, land in this area on the map. And it's something easy that you can just do, but they're areas that I don't normally land because they're not my favourite spots. So and then there's challenges for playing as certain characters, and it might be characters I don't necessarily play as, and then like using weapons that I don't normally use as well. So the thing I do like about these free-to-play games and the season passes is the challenges make you play the game in different ways, which I think is quite good, and I think something that trophies used to do that maybe they don't do as much anymore.
I think there's a lot to be said for those in-game achievements, because I mean, most of the games I play, are trophy based or whatever. But I mean, there's a similar thing in Final Fantasy 14. I mean, the trophies, they stopped a long time ago or whatever for me. But there are, as you're saying, there's a lot of in-game achievements for even just going to a different area and opening that part of the map up, or doing so many crafting or so many things. And it's funny because I don't look at that list or whatever, but it does, and I'm sure it's possibly the same in Apex. It does come up when you hit one of them. It'll sort of come up on the screen and say, but I mean, they don't come up very often, obviously, because they take a lot of time. But yeah, it's interesting, and as I find that interesting because, and again, Apex is a cross platform game, as is Final Fantasy 14, and most of the people I play with on that are PC players, so they are actively going for those in-game achievements. They're sort of they want to do this dungeon or this, and it's there's a lot of merit to that. I think you're right.
Yeah, absolutely.
They never end.
yeah, absolutely. Every day a different challenge. So happy days. And then I will mention it so you guys don't get the satisfaction of bringing it up. I did get the platinum in My Name is Mayo at the end of November, it's the second time I've done it as well, which is insane. But I found myself not ready to go to bed, and I had the Vita in my hand, so I was like, what the hell? I'll give that a go. And that's it for the sort of like first page of my trophy log on PSN profiles. So that's been the sort of last couple of weeks, really.
That's excellent. Now, with this, My Name is Mayo, I want your opinion on this. The platinum percentage is 97.93%. So what is happening to the other 2.07% of people, do you think? Well, what's happened?
But you know what? There was a little bit because obviously the way the trophies stack, I think you unlock most of them early on, and then at that point you've probably got about 6,000 taps, and then there's a trophy for 8,000 taps and a trophy for 10,000 taps, and they're going to be the last two you earn. And I was sort of going through like, oh god, yeah, why did I start this? This was stupid. And then when I got to 9,999, there was a little bit in my brain that just went, just leave it that one tap. And then and I also had in back of my mind, I was like, you're going to be speaking to CJ in a couple of weeks, like that'd be really funny just to say, oh yeah, I'm at 9,999 taps, I've just not done that last one yet. But then by the time I got there, I was like, no, I need this to have been for something. I can't just put it down now and have the last 40, like half an hour, 45 minutes be for absolutely nothing. So I did have to pop it in the end. But yeah,
I wonder if there are people who are waiting to be like the longest completion time on My Name is Mayo.
That could be. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's a sizable number. I mean, 400 on this stack alone, 424 people. I mean, you can count Ike there as one, but that's still 423 other people. I mean, that's amazing. Yeah, look, if you're having troubles with that game, well, I don't know what's going to happen there, because it doesn't get better. Trust me, definitely doesn't get any. Yeah, but that's good. Yeah. Or look, maybe there are. I mean, it's a high spam game. Maybe there's just 400 people playing it now. They're in the process of finishing it. Who knows? Who knows? But look, it's a gem of the system. Yeah. Good. So, Mindi, shall we shuffle?
Actually, Folly, before we move on, I want to ask you about
yes.
Foul Play, because I've downloaded this, and sometimes I think about playing it and I just don't. But it's a Devolver Digital game, so it's going to be quirky.
Yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed it. Again, it was so I actually started this. I started this game when it was a Plus game. I think I played it co-op with a friend one night when it first was on Plus, and then when I got the Vita, it was obviously in my download list for Vita. So I thought, oh, I'll download it. It's on there. And I actually started playing it on the plane on the way to my my stag do. Just like it was like a flight for like an hour and 40 minutes. So I thought, perfect. I'll just play this. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. It's not difficult. The only downside is that I think if you're in the EU or on the EU servers, the plat is unobtainable unless you have a Vita, is what I've read. Basically what it is, there's a trophy. There is an online trophy, and that online trophy is for equipping 2 team charms. You get charms which obviously have different sort of like status effects to your character, like making combos last longer, those sorts of things. And you need to equip team charms, which can only be done in a co-op game. Now, the game does have local co-op. Local co-op does not work on the EU servers. I don't know if that's the same everywhere else. it just for whatever reason it tries to create the game session, and it just boots player 2 out immediately. It just won't connect. I did, when this game first came out, I had a friend who was living in Japan at the time, and we managed to get a game going over online. I think he had to start the game on the Japanese server or the Asian server, whatever he was on, and then I had to join it from the EU, and that worked fine. But I have seen posts on the on PSN profiles with some EU people saying that that's not working for them. Whether that's because they're doing it wrong and they're trying to start the game or not, I don't know. But there seems to be a lot of people struggling with that method. So the way I did it, which does still work, is I started a game on my Vita and then joined that game from my PS4. I did it on 2 different profiles, but actually apparently you can just use your same profile, just log in on the PlayStation and log in on the Vita, and that works fine. But you have to join your own game and then equip the charms and the trophy pops.
And I think that's why I didn't look too much into it, but I seem to remember, yeah, there was some trophy problems in this game, and I, I like my completion percentage, so I've been a little gun shy about this one.
Yeah, well, I don't believe the issues will affect yourself being in the States. I think it's literally just a European problem, and obviously the game's so old now. There's absolutely no way that's getting fixed. Like it's just not. So yeah, just a word of warning that if you can borrow someone's Vita, or
I have a Vita. I love
no,
my
well, no,
Vita.
you're okay. 'Cause like I say, you should be fine to just do it like locally on your PS4, because I think the American servers are absolutely fine. But if you're in the EU, you're going to need someone with a Vita to come around your house and pop this trophy for you.
And local co-op it.
And local co-op. I think I even saw, when I was looking on PSN profiles, I think there was a guy in Italy that literally said, "Oh, I really want to get the platinum for this game," and he was like, "If anyone finds themselves in Italy, like, come round, I will cook you a meal." And I'm
Oh man, I thought you were gonna say I will fly someone out
no,
to
not quite that much.
like one of those
Yeah,
people.
not quite that much. I mean, I'd happily get a holiday to Italy if I'll just take my Visa with me. That's absolutely fine.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, there are benefits to owning a
Yeah,
Vita. Welcome to the club.
but it's a great game. I recommend it. Just really basic sort of side-scrolling beat 'em up. Like there's a few challenges that are a little bit difficult, but nothing, like, you can just reload the checkpoint and try again. And once you've got the enemy patterns down, you pick it up quite easy. It's well worth playing.
Mindy, shall we go across to what you've been playing?
Sure. Well, I've continued to go deep into the backlog because I've got some PS3 games to talk about.
It only
I
took
know.
12 months. Excellent.
Yeah, well, these weren't even ones that were on my profile before. These were little quick games that I could finish for a side event. First one is called Voodoo Chronicles. This is a hidden object game, not Artifacts Mundi. This is, and I should have looked this up. I think this is, I can't remember the name of the company that put out all the PS3 hidden object games, but I think this is one of theirs. This one, I don't know if it's the port is not great, or if I've just been too, I guess, spoiled by how hidden object games control on the PS4. But this one was quite sluggish. Some of the like progression puzzles, the things you needed to do, the sequence of actions you needed to do to, get to another screen didn't make a ton of sense. And actually, if this kind of game is not your forte, you might struggle because you don't have unlimited hints. Like all of the trophies are for just doing the mini games. So just don't skip the mini games and you'll get all the trophies. But you only have a finite amount of hints that you can use to help you through like the hidden object scenes. And you get 2 hints every time you solve one of these puzzles that are tied to the trophies. But that's still a finite amount of hints, which means you could get yourself in real trouble, in the back end of the game if you're just carelessly using the hint button.
You state that, Mindy, or was that like a surprise sort of halfway through, or?
I mean, there's a your hint button is called a hint machine, and it gives you this indication that it runs on like electric charges. But no, it doesn't
Right.
it doesn't overtly say like once you've blown through this, you've blown through this.
Oh, okay.
But the hint meter does have a little number drawn on it, so you have to look at it and realize that that's what that means. That you have 5 hints to use. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But that's I don't think I've seen a hidden object game that's done that. Had those just kind of finite hints. So I don't know if I'd recommend. It's not terrible. It's just there are much better ones for sure. And then the other one I played, this one hurt. Was X-Blaze Lost Memories, and I had forgotten the X-Blaze games just refuse to end. They really do. So I have platinumed X-Blaze Code Embryo twice. That is purely a visual novel that's actually a prequel to this X-Blaze Lost Memories game. These games go on and on and on, and it hits an ending like 3 times, and it's still not done. So X-Blaze Lost Memories is mostly visual novel. It's also broken up with a little bit of, let's call it, gameplay, where you walk around and pick up fragments of memories, and sometimes you get more visual novel stuff after that, sometimes you don't. So you think, okay, that's the game. I'm switching between visual novel and this little dungeon thing. But then you get through this little dungeon or maze, whatever thing, picking up all the memories, and then you get an ending cutscene, and then there's still like 2 hours of visual novel after that. Like, it does not end. And there's no skip button, so you have to sit there and hammer the X button.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say. So listeners, if I mean, this is an older visual novel anyway, but the standard practice is if you're not going to read this, is you really need a turbo controller to push those sections through. But yeah, I mean, I don't know those
So
games.
you have to be careful because there's little parts
Yeah, at the
in
end.
the game, mostly after the dungeon crawling stuff, where
Uh,
you have to answer like a quiz, and there are trophies tied to these quizzes.
yeah.
And then there aren't any you don't need to make any sort of dialogue decisions until like the last hour of the game.
Yes, that's right.
And then the dialogue decisions actually kind of matter because it gets you the last couple of like keywords you need for a
Mm,
trophy. So that's annoying.
mm,
So you can't fully ignore this
mm,
game.
mm. Does have a great plat name though.
Omnipotent, yes, which may or may not be my 550th platinum name,
I'm still pulling for
as we
Bibby
went through last
myself.
week.
Anything else, Mindy?
Yeah, last thing to talk about of note is Dreamwalker Never Fall Asleep. Now, this is the new Artifacts Mundi game. I don't think it's out yet. I think this is coming out next week. So actually, by the time this podcast goes out, it might be out. But as of time of recording, it's not out yet. This is this is one of the ones I recommend. I come on and I say a lot of Artifacts Money games are the same. And yeah, this one is. It feels and plays like every other Artifacts Money game. But this one is interesting because they try to do some different things with it. So the last Artifacts Money game that really sticks out in my head is Noir Chronicles, because it's just murder mystery. Like, there's no supernatural stuff. Because at the end of the day, there's always some sort of supernatural thing in Artifacts Money games. Noir Chronicles and like Path of Greed, those were strictly like murder mystery games, which is great. It's something different. This one, while there is supernatural stuff, because you're like a psychic or something who can enter people's consciousness and deal with their nightmares, whatever. What I want to point out in this one is they try to do different things with the hidden object scenes, where it's not just this set location of messy stuff. There's one that you do entirely through night vision goggles. There's one that you do because you're holding a camera and you're trying to take a picture, and you have to like move all the stuff out of the way so you can take a picture of the thing you need to take a picture of. It mixed it up a little bit, which surprised me. This one specifically was developed by House of Voodoo, which did the Enigmatis trilogy of the Artifacts Mundi games. So this one,
Is this a longer one then?
no, it's this same amount of time.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, this one did take me a little longer to write the guide for. So I guess technically It is longer, but I just tested my walkthrough and it's the same 1.5 to 2 hour completion with a walkthrough. So maybe it's longer.
But it's not like one of those Enigmatuses was really long, I think, from memory, wasn't it? That
Well, that's because you had to play it
that's
twice.
okay, that's right.
Because one of them, I think it was the second one, you had to play it once, making one set of decisions, and then play it once, making the other set of decisions.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was for a trophy. But I liked this one. So if you're gonna, if you're gonna pay for an Artifacts Monday game, I mean, of course you're gonna pay. But if you're gonna pick up an Artifacts Monday game, this one I think you should look at.
Well, listeners, to be honest with you, I basically shot all my games in the last episode, I've realized now, looking at my list. So I didn't hold anything back, even though I advised Mindi to potentially hold something back because we were recording a day later. So look, I don't really have any. I mean, I could sell the virtues of Foxyland Asian Edition stack for you if you like. But look, I think I can spare you. Spare you of that. But look, I should say something, I suppose. So rather than talk about games, because I have nothing to talk about there, I thought I would indulge you for a moment on a movie, Mindi. And it's a movie that I've been putting off for weeks. Well, we live in the backwoods country of Australia, so I was forced to put it off for months. But it finally came here, and so finally we could watch it. And this is the Midsommar by directed by Ari Aster. So this guy is, I don't know, Mindi, if you're familiar with his work. His previous film, Hereditary, he's in the horror genre, I suppose, the sort of abstract horror genre. Have either of you seen this film or?
No, I've heard of Hereditary, but I haven't seen this one.
I've heard of both of them, but I do not do well with scary movies. So I'm not. I actually, after I saw in Discord when you posted about watching this and about his other movie Hereditary, and then I was on Netflix or Amazon Prime, whichever one it was, and Hereditary came up, and I was looking at it for a good sort of like 30 seconds, like, shall I give it a go? And I chickened out. I just can't do it. I'm no good with that.
Well, the funny thing about that Hereditary, I didn't know anything about him when we watched it, and it starts off. I mean, it's not really a horror for 3/4 of the film, and then the last 15 minutes, it's very intense, very very intense, I thought, but it's just very.
Okay.
Random, like random things would happen. I can't go into it without spoiling it or whatever. But so it interested me. And now this Midsommar, I actually put off because I found the last 10 minutes or so of Hereditary pretty full on, and I thought this could be a bit much because it's a very long film at 3 hours. If it's like that for 3 hours, it could be a bit much for an aging man like myself. So I finally got to it, and I can if you're worried about horror, listeners, I can assure you this is not a bad film. It's not for the horror element. It's not that sort of it's definitely not slasher. It's not jump scare at all. It's a very slow burn, abstract sort of horror. And again, we can't really go into it other than to say I really like things and that are created by people where it's just off the wall. And 3 hours is a long time. I mean, 3 hours is that's 3 platinums for me. So it's a hugely long time to commit to something like this. But I wasn't bored throughout it at all. And it was really, really abstract. And it was one of those films where there are some very, very full-on scenes, but not, nothing crazy or whatever. But it's a film at the end, which I love, where you just sort of like, what happened? Is that what I thought happened? What really happened? Where's YouTube? Where's the computer? I need to find out what everybody else thought happened. So look, that is pretty much all I can drop on you. If you're bored, you have 3 hours or whatever else. It's a perfect movie. Look,
Oh, it's about a cult.
It is.
Oh, that is scary.
It is. Yes. Yeah. But it not in the way you think. You would love it, Mindi. There's so many different things going on, and look. There is one of the greatest group sex scenes I've ever seen. It will make you laugh. Like, there is so much humor in this movie. It's not funny. I mean, it's hugely funny. Sorry. So, look, it's well worth it. And, it's one of those films that will, if you've been worried about the horror, just jump in. But as I said, game-wise,
Sidebar, have you ever seen The Wicker Man? Not the awful Nick Cage one, but the original one?
No, I haven't.
No, I've not seen
the good
that.
one?
No.
You might like it. If you really liked this one, I was just reading a little summary of Midsommar. You might like the good Wicker Man, not the Nick Cage one. The good one, the 70s one with Christopher Lee.
Can we have another sidebar as well? I don't want to let the
Oh my goodness, listeners, the sidebars have sidebars. This is fantastic. Please, Folly, pull up a sidebar.
I do not want to let the sentence, one of the best group sex scenes I've ever seen, slip by without just clarifying how many exactly you have seen, CJ. Are you saying that you're an authority on the subject and this is top 10? Or
Well, look, I understand British people are very staid. They're very conservative. I know these things, but I know what goes on inside the British house. So while you present this conservative image, sir, I think I could turn this question around to you and say, how now
we're
was it
not here to
seen or
talk about me, CJ.
participated in? Yeah, look, I suppose we shouldn't open the door too far. The After Dark episode starts later, but no, look, like, to be honest with you, and a sidebar on the sidebar of the sidebar, I find watching sex scenes in movies can be very awkward sometimes. I mean, I played Terminator Resistance the other week, and it has a sex scene in a game that goes for like 30 seconds, and it does side shots, and it's just too much. It was like weird.
There were people in the Push to Plat community posting screenshots of how awkward the angle
Oh,
was on
but
that.
it changes
Like
angle.
3 different people posted screenshots and they're like, "This angle is awful." And they're like, "Oh yeah, check this
That's
one
right.
out."
It's dreadful. It's dreadful. No, I was just going to say, because I find them so awkward, and I think he's playing into that element. I know I'm not the only one. When you go to the cinema, it can be awkward, that sort of thing. Depending on who you're with or whatever else, I suppose. But it's done in a way like it's integral to the story, obviously, to moving it forward. But it's also so over the top that you just have to laugh at it as well. So yeah,
I
it's perfect. It's
I
perfect.
did read an article, I think it was on Kotaku a couple of weeks ago, that they had an interview with the guy from, I'm pretty sure it was Cyberpunk 2077, and apparently that game is going to have motion captured sex scenes as well. So, I mean,
Excellent.
talking of awkward, I would not want to be in the studio that day. That sounds absolutely horrific.
Because they'd be wearing the full capture suits as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've no idea, all the dots on their face, all that sort of stuff.
I'll tell you what,
Bizarre.
it brings a new meaning to the term rubber on rubber, though, doesn't it? I like it. Look, listeners, I'm sorry. See, this is what happens when a gaming podcast turns towards more abstract film. But let's come back now and let's have a look at some new releases. So, Mindy, would you like to throw the first one out? What can our listeners look forward to this week?
Sure. Let's go with. I'm gonna start with Super Epic, and I'm on the wrong game, so there you go. Super Epic. Join a raccoon and a llama in their quest to save video games as we know them. Super Epic is a Metroidvania. Ooh, Folly, Metroidvania.
There it is. There it is.
What do you think about Metroidvanias? Do you like them? Do you play them?
I like a Metroidvania. I've got a little bit of a love-hate relationship with them currently, because I did play and I did stream Hollow Knight a while ago now, and I loved the game. It was absolutely fantastic. I finished the main story, no problem. I didn't find it too difficult, but I really struggled on one of the trials, some of the additional stuff, and it just got very, very hard very quickly. And I get a lot of grief off particular members of particular discords about when I'm going to finally finish that game and when I'm going to get the platinum, and I just don't think it's ever going to happen. But overall, I'd say I do like a Metroidvania. There seems to be a lot around at the moment, but it's I'm not against them. It's not my point that I'm making. I am reiterating a point I heard on the Game Scoop podcast, I think. But actually, there is a claim that the term Metroidvania is actually an incorrect term, which might be joy to CJ if we can get the term out.
This is an invalid topic.
Well, the reason being, Metroid and Castlevania both released the same year. I think they were within 2 months of each other, but like the originals. But Metroid released first and was a Metroidvania, but the early Castlevania games were not Metroidvanias; they were side scrollers. So really, we should be using the term Metroid-like rather than a Metroidvania, because Metroid did it first. Controversial, I know, but I just wanted to throw that out there as well. I've been saving that one for see.
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes to the and we really should save this for when the Metroidvania guy comes on, because it will happen. But the kind of umbrella is it's not referring to the old castle. It's referring specifically to Symphony of the Night.
Yeah.
And how that kind of took the Metroid, not formula, but the Metroidvania-ness of the original Metroid and built on it and refined it, and then added the leveling, like the
Yes.
leveling up and a lot more equipment and items and stuff, because it's been a really long time since I played the original Metroid. But your inventory was quite small in that game. There wasn't a whole lot that you would collect to access other areas, whereas Symphony of the Night really expanded on that. And then that's kind of what Metroidvanias now do. I mean, if you want to get technical about it, you have Metroid, and then you had like Blaster Master. Like, that's a Metroidvania. And then that came out way before Symphony of the Night as well.
Oh, okay.
Rockin' soundtrack, by the way, Blaster Master. Great game. Not so much the sequel, but great game.
What a surprise, listeners. Metroidvania is causing confusion. What a surprise.
CJ, do you want to ask Folly your Metroidvania question?
Mega Man.
I do not have an affinity to Mega Man. Growing up, I was always a Sega kid, and I never really played Mega Man as a result. So, and I've just never really jumped into it. I do have a SNES Classic, and I've tried Mega Man on that, but it holds no particular place in my heart, unfortunately. So no Mega Man for me.
What I've always found interesting, Folly, is that the emotional depth of Mega Man was never, say, as present as a more recent Metroidvania, Ori and the Blind Forest. I find that reaches an understanding with the gamer. I think have you found that in your experience with Mega Man? You just didn't feel a personal, deep connection, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think it comes as part of like playing games as kids and those sort of things you hold dear from your childhood.
Folly, he's messing with you.
Oh.
Not at all. Look, I'm fascinated. What should we talk?
He's messing with you. Every time someone actually like seriously talks about Metroidvania, CJ asks if Ori and the Blind Forest is a Metroidvania, because that's his big point of confusion.
Okay.
Yes, well, that was brought up before. But look, Mindi, two of the most fascinating topics to me in the world are Metroidvania, Mega Man, and soccer. And look, we've covered both of them today, so it's fantastic. It does not get any better. So look, I have no idea what this has to do with Super Epic, but that game is available next week if you so wish, listeners.
Because Super Epic is a Metroidvania.
Oh, well, there you go. What isn't these days?
Filled with humor and satire, with non-linear gameplay, fast-paced exploration, and combo-based combat. The weapon of choice. Oh, okay, now I get it. Combo-based combat, the weapon of choice against the evil regnant core.
Got everything in it. Excellent. Folly, would you like...
You're a raccoon and a llama.
Yeah.
Yes. All it's missing is a bassoon, and this thing would be flying off the shelf. So, look, Folly, a game. You have a few here.
Yeah, so I was gonna touch on Black Sad, Under the Skin. So just the description: a dark corruption scandal in the heart of New York City's underworld is a case for charismatic detective John Blacksad. With its anthropomorphic characters and its incredible 1950s feel, Blacksad Under the Skin promises an eerily dark adventure of a detective novel, just like the eponymous comic book series. So this game released a while ago, but I think it released broken. CJ, I think you bought it, didn't you?
Yes, yeah.
At the time. And I mean, this ticks all the boxes for me. It's games like this that make me annoyed I have a backlog, because I think this is like a £30 game, and if I didn't have a backlog, I'd literally buy this as soon as it came out and I would be playing it. But I have that thing in the back of my head of, well, I can buy it, but when am I going to get to it? So I'm not going to be buying it currently, which annoys me. But it's detective noir and it's anthropomorphic animals, so it just ticks all the boxes for me. One of my favorite games, which I would love to get a remaster, is the Discworld Noir point and click.
Oh yay!
So just the more detective noir games we get, point and click adventures or those sorts of games, just there's not enough of them in my opinion.
No, Blacksad, this is done by Pendulo Studios. They're a Spanish studio that makes really gorgeous point and click adventure games. I think the only thing they have on PlayStation right now is Yesterday Origins.
Okay.
Which is kind of a darker, but they tended until yesterday. Yesterday was quite dark, and then yesterday Origins is the sequel. Before that, they did kind of comedic ones. They had a series called Runaway that ran for I think 4 episodes, and they had the next big thing, which is a weird. I don't know if it translated properly, but it's like a Hollywood kind of a Hollywood one. And there's one that I don't think is on. I don't think it's on Steam anymore. It was for a while, and I don't think it is anymore. Where it's like basically it's like Hollywood but with monsters. Maybe that is the next big thing, and I'm mixing it up because it's been a while. But Pendulo, it's sad that Black Sad released Broken because they're a good studio.
Yeah.
They really put time and effort into their games. So I'm hoping that this sounds like a stack that is on the drop right now. And so I'm hoping that has all been patched and that everything is working. Cuz it's not just like broken like the trophies were broken, like the game was broken, right?
Yeah.
And that's really sad cuz I'll stand up for them. They're a good studio.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would advise just a little bit of caution here, listeners. If you are thinking it's not a cheap game, I would definitely wait because there have been some patches, but I still see there's a problem with the trophies. I have not been back. The animation is really good between the characters, but when you're moving around, the backgrounds are not really fully rendered, or they weren't when it first came out. So it did come out early. It wasn't released broken. Apparently, it was not supposed to come out. So a lot of this stuff could be fixed, but one of the I'm not going to defend them in this position because normally when this happens, the game is pulled from the store and the money is refunded. This wasn't the case this time. So they did leave it out there promising a patch a week later, which didn't come. But I do understand there are patches coming through now. So I think it's a game that maybe, just wait a little bit for.
Yeah. It's one of those things listening to, I can't remember if it was, well, it won't be the last episode because I know that's dropping today, but a couple of episodes ago, and I forget his name, apologies, the guy from Proven Gamer, talking about waiting for games to come on sale when you really want to play them and like supporting the developers. And this is one of those games where I do really want to pick it up and I would happily pay full price for it. But it's just, like I say, the backlog. I don't know when I'm going to fit it in. So there's no point buying a £30 game to sit in my backlog. But at the same time, I want to support this developer because I this is the exact sort of game. This is a Folly game. Like this is what I want to play. So it can be a bit frustrating.
That was a tricky Mick there from Proven Gamer. Shout out.
Tricky, yeah.
That's a difficult position because he's not really an indie game player. So he's more referring to the bigger studios, and he's coming from a position not to justify it, but he's coming from that tech early adopter position.
I mean, I completely agree with him, but in a way, I mean, it's not the AAA guys that need it; it is the indie guys and these smaller games where you do need to be jumping onto those games. And I completely agreed with what he was saying. He was 100% right. But it's just, I just can't put £30 on a game to sit there and play for 12 months. But it kills me because, like I say, I want more games like this. I definitely want more games like this.
Yeah, no, of course. So look, just give it a week or two and just see before you jump into that one. But from what I did play, and admittedly, I didn't. It is a few hours before it was broken, so I didn't get that far. I did enjoy it. So I look forward to going back to that. So look, I'm going to throw out, only because it's the only racing game coming out this week, Touring Karts, which looks fantastic. Now, my understanding from the list here that this will be a tougher one. So this will not be like our race with Ryan from a couple of weeks ago where it was a lovely, easy kart racer. This will be more in the vein of the Super Fruits racing from the other week. Hopefully not as difficult as some of the kart games. But look, we'll wait and see. And it does have a VR component to it, although it doesn't expand on what that exactly is. So look, that could be interesting. Shall we go around again? Is there another one, Folly?
Yeah, so we've got Cardpocalypse, which I think looks pretty good. I do like my card games. And we've got, let me just read the blurb on this. So we've got make friends, play cards, twist the rules, become a mega mutant power pets master, and try and save the world in a single player RPG about being a 90s kid, explore Dudsdale Elementary and build killer card decks to defeat the mutants from everybody's favorite collectible card game that have invaded the real world. So looking at it, this looks to be some sort of like Pokemon ripoff, which I'm a huge fan of. It's depressing that I'm getting to the point where the 90s is considered like old school now. It's that horrific thing where I keep seeing PS2 games referred to as retro. I'm like, Jesus Christ, when did this happen? But yeah, this looks great. I love card games, and I love the 90s, so I think I'd be all over this one.
Perfect. Something to look out for. And Mindy, I know you had another one as well. Would you like to share?
I do, and it's headliner Navi news.
Hmm.
And this is kind of, I don't know if it's a straight up sequel or if it's a remake of a game that's just called Headliner. Anyway, award winning adventure where you control national news. A stack of news articles sits on your desk and it's time to make decisions. After work, emerge on the streets of Novistan, shaped by the very news you publish. Watch the city change day by day and influence the lives of the four main characters. I will glibly call this Fox News Simulator.
I like it.
Because you can, like, you can put out like real news, or you can put out just highly opinionated stuff,
Fake news.
Designed to manipulate people.
Hmm.
It's interesting. I think I'm going to give this one a go. I do love the trophy list for this game. It's got some fun descriptions, like don't you have like Red Dead Redemption 2 to play or something? That's a trophy description. It's it's a fun little trophy list. It does look like you have to play the game, I think 5 times, it says. Like there's an actual trophy for doing it. Yeah, 1 for completing the game, 1 for completing the game twice, and then 1 for completing it 5 times. Depending on how this plays, because I have not played either of them, because there's Headliner and then there's Headliner Navi News. They're both on Steam, pretty cheap. But depending on how long does the game go? How long does the game go? You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially with 5 playthroughs. Like if it's an hour every time, and if those playthroughs are wildly different as well, I suppose, depending on the options available to you, it might be 5 completely different playthroughs, or some might be a little bit similar.
Exactly.
It's impressive to see that there's still some good, interesting games coming this late in the year. I know we mentioned this in the last episode, but it's alarming as well. There is no rest for the wallet, but it's good to see. I mean, I don't remember this being like this last year. So,
Well, this is the time to do it, isn't it? Because all the
of
big
course.
AAA stuff is done for the
Yeah.
year. So, you want to avoid that release window of like October to
Yeah.
mid-November, or really mid-September to mid-November, and then get your stuff in. So you're not competing as much with, Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed and Battlefield, all the big ones that release around this time of year.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. So look, something for everyone, perhaps, there, listeners. Although I'm sure many of you are under the weight of many of the recent games over the last few weeks as well. So look, the sales are out there, sales coming. Just wait and see. Wait and see what you have time to play, I suppose. So why don't we move across now to the topic? So this topic was worded in a much more succinct and better way from our listener and Discord member, Gaz Davis. Now, unfortunately, I've lost the original thing, but I've got the gist of it, sir. So you'll have to bear with me, because yours was more elaborate than ours is going to be. But it's the same thing. We'll touch the points. So we're going to have a look here at the impact of video games on younger generations or younger people. We're not going to go crazy, like into depth, scientifically, stats sort of things. This is more from, just an observation perspective, although Folly has young children. And we're going to look at, it's not a negative thing necessarily, just the sort of positive and negatives, and if there is a line there or whatever. So to kick this off, Folly, now, we were talking about sort of an age range before we started, and you mentioned that one of your youngest children is 3.5 years old.
Yes.
Can I ask, now obviously I don't have children, listeners or whatever, so I'm very, a child from the age of 2 to 9 is roughly the same thing to me. So I'm not fully across the development cycle, but at 3.5 years old, is that too young to even play anything? Or is that...
It's far too old to play anything competently. That's not for want of trying. He does, but both my youngest and my middle lad, I would say, my middle lad is 5. I would say they're both too young to game necessarily, but they do try. If I have something on, like a racing game or a beat 'em up, they definitely want to get involved, and beat 'em ups are fantastic for that, because obviously you can just mash buttons and like weird and wonderful combos will come out, and they'll accidentally shoot a fireball and think it's the coolest thing in the world. So they do try, but they don't really understand what's going on. Even the we've got Lego Marvel superheroes, but even that is just completely out of their ability currently, without a lot of patience and a lot of coercion about what actually has to happen and how they actually need to do things.
Okay. So look, I want to start. I've got a few questions because I've observed these creatures in the wild. I've seen them around the place. Now, one of the things that I find interesting is we're living in the iPad generation. You go out to a cafe, or go out for coffee or something. If there's a young child there, it's almost guaranteed there's going to be an iPad propped up in front of them or something else. So now, do you think, and this is obviously in a personal, for you personally, do you use a gaming system the same way? Does it give you a break from your children?
Not gaming system at the moment, although I'm sure it will in the future. But TV is definitely a thing. If depending on the morning, if for instance I've managed to get, by some sort of miracle, a full 8 hours sleep, and like I'm feeling rested, and the boys have had a good night's sleep, and everyone's feeling really harmonious. Get up in the morning, have some breakfast, and like maybe play a board game or something in the morning, and it's all very angelic, all very like sort of modern family, and we have a great time. However, and any parents listening will relate to this, there are some nights where I've been up 2 or 3 times in the night with them. One of them has woken up on the wrong side of the bed and has completely decided that any fun anyone is having, they want to ruin that fun. And it all gets a little bit fraught and a little bit too much. And then that's the time where it's like, okay, guys, we'll put a film on. Let's all sit down with some Disney, and everyone just not speak to each other for an hour and a half while we all sort of reset back to zero, and get ready to carry on with the day.
Okay, good. So let's start with some positives. What I suppose we're talking more about your eldest then here, because he's of an age that can game. What are some of the positives you see him gaining from spending time gaming?
So I think a big thing is, and it's a way, it's something that I don't remember from myself growing up with gaming. Obviously, when I grew up with gaming, it was like the Sega Genesis and that sort of thing. And I always remember, obviously, there was no online multiplayer. There was couch co-op for certain games, and I used to play. I used to maybe have like 4 or 5 games that I'd play, but there would reach a point where I would get stuck as a child, sort of on Sonic or whatever it might be, and then like I would be taken to, like, my big thing at a weekend was I would be taken to rent a game from Blockbuster or from the local rental place. So I think I played more games as a kid than he currently does, because of that rental. So I never really stuck with anything for too long. I never really got better at anything, because if I got stuck, I'd just be like, well, I'm not playing it. And I knew that I'd be able to then play something new at the weekend because I'd be renting something. Whereas his big thing is Overwatch. Massively, he was until recently. It's moved over to Apex Legends a little bit now, but he's massively into to Overwatch. Like, got Overwatch Lego figures, Overwatch Funko Pops, all that sort of stuff. He loves it, he literally would exclusively play that. And on the rare occasion there was a Sonic, a PlayStation Plus game like Sonic Mania, like that's age appropriate, I might show him that, and he'd maybe try it for like 10 minutes. He'd be like, yeah, no, I'm going to play Overwatch. And that sort of single-mindedness has really allowed him to like get really good. And I think, obviously, unless he becomes a multi-million pound esports player, which I'm not holding out much hope on, but that sticking with something and improving and trying to reach goals within that one thing, I think that's a really good sort of singular focus, rather than when I was a kid of, well, this has got too hard, I'm not playing that anymore. What can I rent from the video store? He really is. And it used to be, I'd sort of sit in the same room with him when we first got Overwatch, and he'd play it, and it was absolutely infuriating to watch because he was terrible. And like, that's fine. He was like 8 at the time. Like, it's no judgment. He has every right. But it was, I'd sort of sit there and like, this is really frustrating for me. I was trying really hard not to backseat game, but it was very difficult. But I sit with him now, and he's like, he's really, really good at it at like the age of 10. He's absolutely fantastic, and he plays really well. And to the point where actually on Apex Legends, I was I think I was posting in the Discord, or it might have been a different one the other day. He actually got the trophy for becoming the kill leader in Apex before me. So I was feeling really frustrated. He plays on my profile currently, and so it popped on my profile, and I was really annoyed because I was like, if I get the 100% now, I won't have got the 100% because he's got that trophy, and I was really frustrated. But I actually managed to become kill leader, and I got a clip of it as well, like the other day. So it's fine now, even though I didn't pop the trophy. I have become the kill leader at some point, so I'm back on for the 100%, which I'm really pleased with.
Now, I would like to go down this line, if this is okay with you here. So you've mentioned Overwatch. Now, I know that this game works in matches, so there is a definite finish to the match. But the way the game is designed is that you continue to play, like Fortnite, like Apex. You start another match and another match. It's incentivized. The game basically forces you in. So are you concerned? And I come at this from a thing because for myself, when I was younger, I always avoided open games because I thought this is a massive time sink. You get in, you lose time, and then you're sort of away. And it's part of the reason why I never started an MMO for so long, because I understand that it's very easy to fall into this loop. And we see this a lot with games like Fortnite. There are problems, where there are no limits. So does that concern you that or maybe a better question is, how do you impose a limit then? Or does that not become an issue of how much time they can play?
We definitely try and limit screen time to a certain degree. So we have sort of set days where he can go on, and it's very much, we're currently at the stage where, as I mentioned before, we've got one TV in the house, so it's easy to limit that because it's not the case that he's got a TV in his room and he'll just disappear upstairs and can play his own PlayStation. And the PlayStation, the PS4 was actually, I got it as a present for my 30th birthday, and it's very much referred to as my PlayStation. So he has to ask if he wants to go on it. He has his set days, and it's understood that it's a treat. It's not just what we do day in, day out. It's, I've had a good day today. Like I've worked hard at school. I've done whatever. I've done my swimming lesson, etc. And I've earned this time on the PlayStation, and he really enjoys it. And it's very much used as an incentive of, you're allowed to go on this because you are nearly 10 and you are old enough to go on it, and also you've earned it today. You've really helped us out around the house, things like that, done chores and things like that. So it's useful in that regard because he does love going on the PlayStation. In terms of it being like an ongoing thing, it does concern me in one way. And I was trying to think back again to when I was a kid playing games, because as I say, he didn't have the desire to like try new things, and he even tried different genres. And I'd suggest a game, and he's like, well, is there a tutorial? Yeah, there's a tutorial. How long does it take? I'm like, oh, tutorial takes about an hour. And he's like, I'm only going to be playing for 2 hours. I know I've got 2 hours today to play this. And he's like, I can either play Overwatch for 2 hours and know what I'm doing, or I can waste an hour in a tutorial on this game and then get in another hour before you send me to bed. And so that did worry me for not worry me, but that was the sort of thing at a time where I was like, there's so many different games out there that you could be playing and trying out. But he was just so focused on Overwatch. But I mean, each to their own. There's plenty of people who just play a certain MMO, and that's absolutely fine. It's what you enjoy, I guess.
Yeah, no, I understand. So, I do have, I joke about it at the start, but I do work with children as well. So perhaps I see a different side sometimes to the parents, although, you would have seen this as well. One of the things that amazes me, and, I know we're talking about sort of 8, 9, 10 here, but right through to 16 and 17, is that how innocent a lot of these children are. Of course, not all of them, but a lot are, and innocent in life experience, I suppose, but also how easily they are influenced, if you like, by through peer pressure. And I know we hear this all the time, and people go yada yada whatever, but it's a real thing. You know, to play what your friends are playing, or to do what your friends are doing, or to be seen as part of the group, and especially at a younger age, that's a massive sort of thing. So what I'm driving at here is, because you know there are many styles of parenting in the world, you know, and I'm not going to comment on it because I'm not, you know, participating in it. So it would be redundant of me to impose anything. But my question is there, you know, and obviously you know you can't control what other parents are doing, but how do you find a limit on which games are appropriate then?
Yeah, that's always a tricky one. I think with these things, it's knowing the individual child as well, and you know, knowing what is right for them. I think with things like Overwatch and Apex and things like that, it's also over the top. That I always think that he seems okay with things like that, whereas I would not let him play something like a Call of Duty for obvious reasons. And same with, we will happily sit together and play some Street Fighter or some Tekken, but we would not put on Mortal Kombat. And so it's knowing those things. I mean, age ratings are definitely important, and we try and follow them as best we can.
Hmm.
I think Apex is a 16, so we are slightly overshooting that one. But it's one of those that, you know, there's no blood, there's no gore, so we sort of take a little bit of a lighter approach on that. But I think it very much. I mean, it depends completely on the child. I know there are plenty of 16-year-olds that I think shouldn't be playing certain games that I think, you know, children 3 or 4 years younger than them would probably be absolutely fine with, if they're mature enough and if they understand. But I think we're quite lucky now in that a lot of parents are also gamers. So like I remember tricking my mom into letting me rent Mortal Kombat when I was probably about 7. And I remember her saying, like, it's got that it's an 18 on the box. I was like, yeah, no, they've just used the box of something else for this game. Like, you can't get video games that are 18s. Like, what could be in a video game that would be an
Yeah.
18? Like, that's crazy. And my mom was obviously like, yeah, okay, that's fair enough. And then, yeah, I was playing Mortal Kombat at like age 7, whereas parents nowadays are a lot more savvy. And like, there is not a game that is released on PlayStation that I don't know about, because I'm on the PlayStation Store every day looking at new releases, seeing what's there, if I like the look of anything. So if he comes to me and says, "Oh, I've heard about this game from my mate at school," I'm like, "Yeah, you're not playing that. Like, there's just absolutely no way you're doing that, because I already know about it. I've already seen the trailers, and it's just so it's good in that respect. It's definitely good in that respect."
That makes sense. See, one of the things that I always, you know, I think in the back of my mind would be highly hilarious is that if an 8-year-old or 6 or 10 or whatever actually comprehended and understood the word hypocritical, because we have been like, you know, this is what I find amusing, you know, in this helicopter parent generation. I mean, if we think back to, and I'm sure everyone that's listening has been in this position, yourself, myself, Mindi, everybody, some of the things that we've done in our lives, it's a miracle we're even alive.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not that you're doing insane things. It's just when you look back at it and you think, wow,
Yeah.
it's probably a bit crazy to do that. And it's a
Yeah.
learning experience as well, isn't it? But perhaps we wouldn't be where we are now if we hadn't have done those things.
Absolutely. But I think, I mean, a big one for me, the most, I think the most hypocritical moment I've had as a parent was in gaming, in that because my eldest, he's my stepson, and he'd been down to his dad's for the weekend, and it was for his birthday, which was a couple of years ago, and his dad had bought him a 2DS, and we had said, at that time, I think my youngest would have been a baby, and my middle lad would have been probably a toddler, like sort of like 18 months to something like that. And we were very much against gaming in front of them. Like, we wouldn't like play iPads and things like that around them, because we didn't want the 2-year-old trying to play an iPad and things like that. We wanted to keep that until he was a bit older. So we'd sort of, his dad had said he was buying him this 2DS, and we were like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Like, make sure it stays down with you. We don't want it here, because we don't want it around and causing arguments in the house, and having the middle lad playing it. But then lo and behold, he arrived at our door back from his dad's, and he bought it with him. which is understandable. It was his new toy for his birthday, and he wanted to bring it back, and his dad was like, "Okay, just don't play it around your brother." And then so he got back, and it had Pokemon Sun on it. It was built in, and it sort of he gave it to me, and I sort of, all right, I'll put it in the cupboard so your brothers don't get hold of it. And I logged on to the game, and and obviously I knew with Pokemon there it tracks your time on the save file. And I logged on and had a look, and I think in that weekend he'd racked up about 20 hours on Pokemon Sun in like 3 days. And I completely got on my high horse, and I was like, oh my god, he has played Pokemon Sun for 20 hours in 3 days. That is ridiculous. Like, he should not be having that much screen time. Like, really, really up my own arse with this. And I messaged a couple of my friends and was like, you will never believe. And my friend who was my best man at my wedding, like I've known him for 25 years, when that would be a slow weekend when you were his age. And I thought back and I was like, no, you're absolutely right. Like, what the hell am I talking about? Like, when I think back, I was one of those kids. I was back from school, PlayStation on as soon as I got back in from school, turn it off when it was time to go to bed. Like, and then over a weekend, I would easily do 6 hours of gaming on a Saturday, 6 hours of gaming on like, I was the worst of the worst. And I was like, you're absolutely right. He's not doing anything that I wouldn't have been doing at that age. And I, touch wood, have turned out okay. So I need to calm down and not be so hypocritical when it comes to things like that. So
that's one of the fantastic, fantastic ironies of life, is that, for a young child, their whole value and belief and security in the world is based on the fact that an adult, or their parents or adults in general, they are in control. They know what they're doing. The ultimate irony becomes that when you get to 30, you realize you're still acting like a 5-year-old in your mind. So you were never, the adults were never any different, I feel. They're assuming the role, aren't they? But, look, I always find that amusing. Now, Mindi, what do you think about all of this? What do you think?
Yeah, it just got me thinking of, because I used to work at GameStop, and I did have parents come in and say, my kid wants this M-rated game, and all they would know is, it's recommended for such and such, like movie ratings. But you get the parents who are very strict and say, no, you have to be 17 to do this. But then you get the parents who follow, like you're saying, it's about knowing your kid. And they would say, is this appropriate for my kid? And my answer for these kind of questions is, when is it okay for my underage kid to play a game that is not rated for him or her? A lot of times I would say, would you let him or her watch, this movie? So like and I had a manager who would ask that too, and he would say, like, he was a big fan of saying, like, when parents come and say, is it okay for my kid to play Call of Duty? And he would say, would you let your child watch Born on the 4th of July? Like, if you would let your kid watch this movie, then, and try to relate it to something the parents would actually know, and give them some touch point of if then logic. So if you would let your kid, kid parents come and say, well, what about Uncharted? And I say, would you let your kid watch Indiana Jones? Would you let your kid watch specifically Temple of Doom? Because that's the dark one, like, that's the scary one, right? And Temple of Doom, Uncharted has some scary bits in it. It's all fun treasure hunting and gunfighting, but then there's always some, like, supernatural monster. So I'm like, if you would let your kid watch Temple of Doom, like, specifically Temple of Doom, then yeah, go for it. The big benchmark is if you'll let your kid play, Grand Theft Auto, then get your kid anything in the store. Like, if that's your there were several parents where they were like, I don't want to play Grand Theft Auto, but is there something like that? And I'd point them to Saints Row, and I was like, this is Grand Theft Auto that does not take itself seriously. I would say it's about 90% Grand Theft Auto, but not as awful. Like, you're not as awful to human beings. It's a lot more lighthearted or light spirited, I suppose, but still pretty bad. But what I really wanted to ask you is, because we are of 3 different countries here with 3 very different government, and I'm not gonna get political, but video games and politics is a thing.
yeah.
And Australia is kind of a nanny state about it, to the point where I think even though they relatively recently have started rating, or have created a rating for M games, basically, they still don't allow many of them to be published in Australia, so they have to import a lot of them. And of course, in the United States, it was a really, really big political issue of, banning video games and blah, blah. And every time there's a shooting in this country, which is like every other day, as soon as, you find out that the kid, if it's a school shooting and the kid played video games, all the pundits are on and they're saying video games make kids violent, and no one understands that correlation does not equal causation. My very roundabout point is, do you buy into this? Do you believe that younger children playing games like Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, etc., can make them more give them more violent tendencies to want to act out on it?
No, I just not in the slightest. Obviously, I mean, I grew up playing absolutely all sorts, and I'm not a violent person at all. And I think I don't. My big thing actually, and I don't know if I'm alone in this because it's not necessarily an opinion that I hear a lot. Is I don't think that violent and over the top video games and movies will make someone violent, but I actually think that it will be so mind blowing and out there that it almost ruins things for them that are age appropriate, and they sort of grow up too fast. Like our 10-year-old now, if I was to show him, if he was to play Call of Duty, I don't think that he would be then trying to get a gun. And I don't think he would become a violent kid. But then I also think that if I was to show him something like Sonic or something that's more age appropriate for him, he'd go, "This is boring. I want to play Call of Duty." And I that's always my thing. I think, if you show kids these things that aren't age appropriate for them, they're gonna think they're incredibly cool because there's like a big monster or a big gun or something like that. So then when you sit down with them and try and read a book or draw a picture, they're gonna be like, "No, this isn't cool. I want the big monster. I want the big guns," sort of thing. And for me, it always comes from that point of view. Like, don't let him grow up too fast. Let there still be things for him to discover when he's 16, 17, 18, rather than he's been doing this since he was 10 and nothing really interests him anymore because he's already seen it all and done it all, if that makes sense.
No, for sure. And in that same kind of vein, though, you know, peer peer pressure is a thing. So when his
Oh yeah.
friends, let's say around 14, 15, 16, start playing Call of Duty, is that time for
Mm.
you to kind of reassess and say, well, it's not of the age, but all his, as much as I
Yeah, I
hate
mean,
to say, all his friends are doing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's always the difficult thing. And again, I mean, it goes back to that point of if I think then, or if I say me and my wife think at that point that it is he's mature enough to handle that sort of thing without like in the right way. I think we would. And again, yeah, as you say, his friends are playing it and things like that. I think last year I went to a local comedy night, and there was a comedian on that said his mom had caught him playing Call of Duty, and she was like, "Oh, you shouldn't be playing that. It will make you violent. You'll go out and steal a car and kill a prostitute and stuff like that." And he was like, "Mom, you don't understand. I'm playing this because I don't want to go outside." It was like, to do those things, I would have to go outside, and I'm not willing to do that. I want to stay in and play Grand Theft Auto. And he was like, "So you haven't got anything to worry about." And so I suppose it's that if they're inside on the video games, they can't be out getting into trouble anyway. It's probably a good thing.
And that's, and it's a comedian, but that's exactly how I feel. I think it's more of an outlet. If I'm really stressed, I want to load up like Saints Row and I want to kill a bunch of people. And it's not, I don't have a desire to kill real people, but it is a stress release thing. And I honestly think, people who say that, you know, oh, I played Grand Theft Auto and I killed a hooker and it made me really want to go out and kill. Like, I feel like they're just looking for an excuse and they already had that tendency there.
Well, it's funny. I actually, it's a point that's been made by my wife in the past. Me and my wife actually had a debate about it, specific about Grand Theft Auto, in that I think it came up. I can't remember why, and she sort of said, "Oh, because my I should say my wife doesn't game at all, really, like the odd quiz game or something like that, but she's not a gamer." And I sort of mentioned Grand Theft Auto, and she was like, "Oh, Grand Theft Auto," and I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "I just don't think," and she was like, "I just don't like Grand Theft Auto." And I said, "Well, why? What's the problem?" And she was like, "Well, I just think that any sort of game where you can like sleep with a prostitute and then kill her, and then like, why is that allowed? Like, how is that acceptable?" I was like, "Well, hang on." I was like, "I completely agree. Like, I have played these games, and I completely agree with what you're saying, that you can do that in the game. But actually, that is not a key gameplay mechanic. It is an open world game that allows you to do many, many things. You can get a car and drive it into the sea if you want. You can do all these different things, but it is not key to the game. There is never a main mission that makes you sleep with a prostitute and then kill her to progress the story. You don't get rewarded apart from the odd bit of money that she has dropped when you kill. Like, there's no trophies are tied to it. It is specifically, it's not a key gameplay thing you're rewarded to do. It's something you can do in the game, and if you want to do it, by all means go and do it. But you will not win the game doing that. So you're not getting rewarded for doing it. So it's easy to pick on that point in the game and write an article about how this is disgusting that kids can go and get a game and do this. It's like, yeah, but if you are playing this game, you probably won't ever actually do that. You will only do it because you've read a news article that says you can do it. But you're not going to win the game. You're not going to complete the game just by driving around and doing these random acts of violence. It's not key to the story, and I think that's what people forget a lot of the time.
No, I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think from listening to you talk, it is, I mean, it's a huge advantage, isn't it, that you're a gamer yourself because you understand, what's going on. I can see from your wife's perspective, not being a gamer, that you don't really know what's involved. As you say, you just hear it, and that
Absolutely,
shapes your
absolutely.
opinion. So you're in the thing. One of the things I find interesting is I listen to. I mean, it feels strange to say mainstream podcasts in gaming because gaming is already a fringe thing. But and they refer to themselves as being for the hardcore gamers. And then I think, well, what are we doing? I mean, we're off the scales hardcore then, with the sort of the people that we're talking to and mix with. But one of the things like you can only judge, as a person grows older and where they end up and what goes on. But through doing this, I mean, the number of people we've talked to, they're stable people, they're successful people. And look, I understand it's a very small percentage of gamers in general, but I don't think that it's necessarily something to, I know we've addressed a lot of the negatives today, but I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing. I mean, there are so many positives, aren't there? Like, I mean, in the communities that you're in as well, there are people, as there are in every walk of life, but by and large, I'm always interested. There are successful people, clever people, interested about other things. Like there is a balance there too, I think, for the good.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
So, Mindi, I have a feeling we could go on forever on this topic because I find it interesting. I think this is the relationship I want with a child, is through somebody else to tell me what it's like while I sit in my house when none of them are around. But, it's idealistic for me. But is there anything else you'd like to touch on, Mindi, here?
No, I think it could be a really long discussion, but I think for the purpose of just the kind of slice we want to do for the podcast, I think this is a good stopping point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Perfect as well. So, listeners, like if you have a different perspective, as I always say, reach out and let us know. But and if you don't have children, maybe consider what you
Getting
may,
one?
because many of you will. Yeah, well, no, they can be arranged, I'm told. But no, to consider, I mean, these are issues that most people will deal with it, at some time or whatever. So it's really interesting, and I have a feeling, Folly, because I believe Gaz has children as well. I'm going out on a limb here, but I think so. I have a feeling that maybe everyone is looking for the right answer, for a balance and for all this thing and reassurance, and I think you've given that today. I think it's just good to hear. Well, it's just good to hear other people, their story about what they're doing. And then you realize, well, it's no different for me. And, there's always security in being, I know it's a dreadful thing to say, there is always security in conformity. And at the end of the day, it's easier too. So I think Mindi's right. I think that's a great stopping point. And there is no better time now to move across for us adults, because children would not participate in this. Spam games.
I don't know. The
Mindy.
cross section is pretty big. There's a lot of, child-friendly games in the spam category.
There is, but they wouldn't be playing them for the spam trophies. I don't think they. Well, maybe they are. Maybe they. I can't wait to come across this, because I get. We were talking about this a while ago. We get random party requests or something, and one of my first questions, if I ever do join, is how old are you? If I don't know them, and whatever. But I can't wait until I run into a level 100 that's 14 or 15 or something. It's a massive trophy haul, and it's telling me it'll be fantastic. I'll be out talked. It'll be great. But until that day, whoever you are out there, until that day,
I have a trophy hunting friend who has children, and he'll have his younger kids play like the Barbie games and stuff on his profile, so he can get the trophies for him.
It's clever. It's clever. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a sort of, they're working for you, aren't they?
Technically, yeah, there could be, a level 100 hardcore trophy hunter that's 12, just probably not their account.
Yes, in some countries that would be called trophy slavery, but in our developed nations, of course, that would not be the case. So why don't we move? Why don't we move across to spam games for this week? So Folly, here we're just pulling some names from the profiles list up here. Just throw out anything that strikes you. I don't know. Who wants to start? Jump in.
I'll start. Actually, I was noticing there. Just going through the latest trophy list, there's the Star Ocean First Departure R. My understanding is Star Ocean are very quick and easy platinum, as
they really are. Now, this is a misconception that these games take so long. That's because you don't know what you're doing. Clearly, they're spam.
Absolutely. So if you really want something spammy, definitely crack on with a Star Ocean game.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many to choose from. So, you're set there. Yeah. That's
stacks on stacks on stacks, man. Do all of them. It'll take you like an afternoon.
That's right. It does make you wonder what those people are doing in there for those many hours, doesn't it? But anyway, we'll just leave that there. I think Mindi,
killing hookers and robbing them.
Well, possibly. This is JRPG. Anything goes there. Trust me. So Mindi, what have we got here? Now, do you? Oh, we like the headliner trophies, but probably not spam in length.
Probably not spam. It all depends on how long the game takes.
Yes.
For these 5 playthroughs.
Yeah.
I actually have a question for you, because the Untitled Goose Game trophy list dropped. Do you think this would be kind of higher class spam?
Yeah, if you've played the game before, you could do this list in a couple of hours. So yeah.
The only reason I'm hesitating to call it spam is there's a couple of timed trophies.
Oh, you mean like difficulty wise then?
Yeah.
Not so much length. No, I don't think so. I don't think it would. It's fairly forgiving. To be honest with you, one of the hardest things, because this is, listeners that don't know, this is obviously on Switch. There are no. I got stuck on a hat puzzle. There aren't really a lot of guides. Like I think I put in the Untitled Goose Game trophy guide, and then I realized, well, there are no trophies because it's Nintendo. Yeah. So there are less guides available. But once there's a guide, that would be the only problem. Maybe sorting out some of the puzzles. But yeah, no, it's great though. A great game. Yeah. I would classify that as very high class spam. Yeah. Anything else?
What about Velvet brought up? What about Bleep Bloop?
Yes. Yeah. That did definitely sounded like it, didn't it?
I've got one here. I think the name is, it's 3 O's, so I guess that's Oo. Maybe it's called on the list. I'm just going through the trophy list. So you've got some bronzes, silvers, and golds for completing different sectors. For doing 1,000, there's crashing once, crashing 20 times, crashing 1,000 times, and crashing 100 times and 1,000 times. The only ones I think might be difficult, depending on how hard the game is you have to attain triple O rating for all levels. So depending on how hard this game is, I know absolutely nothing about it, but depending on how hard this game is, that could probably be the only challenge. But otherwise, it's just crashing, traveling a certain amount of miles, and completing some sectors. So that seems okay.
The tragic thing about this game is that it will only come out digital for sure, but this would be the perfect game to go to the game store. Excuse me, do you have
Ooh, please.
Ooh. That's great. He's like, oh God, the old guy's having a stroke. Quick. Oh, it's fantastic. Sorry, Mindi. Anything else?
Oh no, I was actually debating that one, but
Yeah, there's
yeah, you already
actually
brought
not
it
a
up.
lot.
I'll throw on
Mm,
Dreamwalker. You know, still
mm,
spam with a guide. It's just
yeah.
better.
Yeah. We may have hit the period where Rat is slowing down for the holidays because I'm not sure that there's a Rat game this week either. So
Well, Foxyland too, right? That
no,
hasn't
it
come out
hasn't,
yet.
but I'm not sure when that's coming out. So yeah. Yeah, we don't know on that one. But look, there, there's stuff there. This Hatsune Miku VR, it potentially was hopefully going to be easy, but it looks like it's going to be really long and grindy. Just with the number of songs that may end up even being like 100 hours in VR, which is insane. So we will see
We'll
on
go
that one.
blind.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the requirements are the length requirements seem to be a little bit extreme. Look, I'm going to throw out Blair Witch. It's not particularly short, and if you didn't play it on the Xbox, it's not going to be particularly easy either. I think it's a funny game. It's a combination of a puzzle adventure, but
It's not short and easy, but let's put it on the spam list.
well, if you've played it before, it will be because you'll know how to get everything in one run. But otherwise, you're going to be tossing up a guide because there's collectibles and there's different ways you have to do things. There's also sort of survival elements in the game as well. So look, it's an interesting game. I think it's worth playing. But yeah, I mean, it's still not going to be long, like maybe 10 hours if you haven't played it before. But and that's probably without using a guide as well. But yeah, so it potentially spam. I think that's probably it.
Spam with guide.
Spam with guide. Yes, middle lower class spam, perhaps. I don't know. That could be a new category. Look, I think that's quite a lot. From nothing. Can I just say I'm disappointed this game dev story does not have a plat? What a shame. But anyway, that's unfortunate because it looks quite manageable otherwise. But look, anyway, if there's nothing else with spam, now why don't we move across? So listeners to the Push2Plat Platinum Club shoutouts. So we didn't do any on the last episode because we came to a natural end. So as a result, we've just got a ton to do today. So I'll field comments as we go. Please feel free to make any comments as you wish. I've even grouped them together. We'll start with the Scottish noob. Here, number 310, Lego Jurassic World. 100%, Thomas Was Alone. 311, now prepare yourself here, listeners, Mindi and Folly. This is what happens when you listen to a podcast that has a spam section. Number 311, 312, Foxyland and Foxyland Vita. Number 313 to 318, Tic Tac Letters, Gravity Duck, Football Game, Deep Space Rush. Number 319, Mechabolt, not a Metroidvania. Number 320, 321, Super Boxland Remake Asia and Vita. Number 322, Mechabolt NA. So you've hit the pinnacle of the Sony library. That is fantastic.
We've converted him.
I think so. I see no Death Stranding here, though, sir. So I'm watching you. Congratulations, though. That's a lot of platinums. It's impressive. We have a new member to the group, Mindi, the Real Apex, number 37, Stretch, and number 38, Late Shift. So that's good. Well done, sir. Late Shift is. I think we all agree, Mindi. That's a nice FMV.
It's a fun one, yeah.
Yeah. And I mentioned in the thread, but he obviously still has his reactions because Stretch is difficult to platinum if you do not. The East Side. This is impressive. This is what's going on here. How do you have the time for this, sir? You're a retired multimillionaire.
I told you, man. He's a beast.
He is because listen. Not only are the games amazing. Listen to this is over a 2-week period, but obviously he's been working on them. Perhaps listen to the number difference. That's what's impressive. So 585, Concrete Genie. 589, Terminator Resistance. 591, Life is Strange 2. 599, Death Stranding.
Wow.
So there's like many platinums between those as well. So that's impressive, sir.
You missed 600.
What was 600?
I know what 600
Please.
is. Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, that's right. That's insane. That is fantastic effort, sir. Fantastic. That's like 300 hours between those two. Because it is a long platinum, isn't it, Red Dead Redemption 2?
Oh, yeah.
It's very impressive. How many kids do you think Easty has, Mindi?
I actually know the answer to that question.
They're obviously fine gamers in their own right. Then we move on to Gaz Davis. Look, I'm going to allow this 100%, sir, because look, why not? There are so many platinums here. I'm feeling platinum envy. We need to get you in here as well. 100% the Playroom, and then number 43 Deadpool, which is really fun. That has some fantastic trophy names as well. I'm not sure if we've all played that or not, but
No, I've never played it.
oh, you should.
I've heard it's good.
Yeah, the trophy names are fantastic. Yeah. Mindi,
I think I still have that on PS3. It's been delisted. Both versions have been delisted.
I think
though,
so.
right?
Yeah, it was physical too, at least on PS4. So I'm sure there's discs floating around.
Yeah, I have the PS3 disc. I think I still have it.
I went into like a local secondhand video game store, and
Was it sex?
no, it was it's a local one. It was just a like a little independent one, and they had a copy of Deadpool, and it was like £6 or something, or £8, and I was like, I'm sure that's been delisted. I should pick that up because it must be a collector's item. The guy hasn't realised. But then I googled it, and like on eBay, even though it's delisted, you can still pick it up for like £8 or something. It doesn't seem to have increased in price due to only being able to play physical now, which I thought was surprising.
Right.
I expected that would ramp it up.
I think Deadpool would approve that it hasn't risen in value. He probably wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, okay, so we'll move on here. Redbeard Rick, congratulations, sir. Platinum number 100. Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor. That's a big game as well, so impressive. Number 101, Story of a Gladiator. It's impressive. I didn't think anyone would pick up on this game, but you did, so a fine clicker. Number 102 and 103, Mindi, One Night Stand, Mr. Rick. So he must have enjoyed that enough to do it twice. It's impressive. Sleepy Nachos. That's a great name. Sleepy Nachos is a new member. Welcome, sir. That sounds like an act, doesn't it? Last night we did the Sleepy Nachos. Can't walk. Okay, anyway, that's a fantastic name. 117, Just Cause 3. I'll tell you what, you wouldn't be walking after that game. That is a massive platinum, so just getting all the collectibles in that game takes like a couple of weeks. That's impressive. Afraid of the Folly, today's guest, number 31, Doom, which we talked about. Well done, sir. Impressive. Eigenspace, number 84, Spyro the Dragon. And I agree with you about your comment. The flying races are challenging, very challenging. And then Boston George, we saved you for last. Number 150, Star Ocean, The Last Hope International. It probably took me longer to say the name of the game than it did for you to plat it. But congratulations, sir. Would anyone like to jump in on the Star Ocean one?
He was working on that for a while. Like 2 years, right?
Yeah, he's been at it for a while. I mean, I know I don't want to give you more work editing, CJ, but if we can get some sort of like canned applause there, because that was absolutely incredible. He's been posting regular updates in like Discords that we're both a member of, and I've genuinely had like beers in the fridge that were specifically to be opened when he finally said, "I've got this platinum, so I could crack one open and celebrate with him," because it's such a massive achievement. I was really impressed. He's smashed it.
No, we joke around, but that's a massive platinum, like 500 plus hours, I believe. And look, all I can say is, Boston 10 George, I believe you owe your children many presents for this platinum. That is a very impressive effort. It is time they were released from the basement and fed, I believe. So congratulations.
Is it wrong that my first question is, what's the next one? Like, what's the next massive game he's going to undertake?
Well, I think he's going to start the one that I mentioned in the spam, because that's the first one. That's a remake or a remaster of the original SNES one, and I think he's.
Oh, stop it! Is he really?
I think he's going out, but apparently it's not a bad trophy list in comparison to the others in the series. So I think he was going back and jumping on that one, but he wants to do the whole series. So yeah, I mean, more power to him.
Yes, yeah.
Come on, man, lower yourself. Play some spam for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come in, the water's fine.
Could you imagine someone like that playing spam? That wouldn't happen. It would not happen. It's disgusting.
He wanted it to be his 150th plat, but I think he was on something like 130 35 or something. So he literally keyed it up ready to do his hard playthrough, which was the last trophy he needed. And then I think he did like 10 or 15 platinums in a very, very short amount of time. Ready to get that one for his 150th.
So you're one of these sort of gamers, huh, George, where you just put the garbage under the covers and pretend it doesn't exist. I see. Very nice. Very nice. Well, look, we joke aside, Mindi, but I don't remember if he reached out to me or I reached out to him. Who cares? Yada, yada. It's the same thing. And he has agreed to come on next year. But, Mindi, it is highly possible I will offend him before that point. So we'll wait and see if he survived this podcast, then perhaps we're okay.
You're why we can't have nice things.
I know. But at least we can laugh. So that's more important, I think, in the long run. So look, that is fantastic, everybody. And of course, if you are interested in getting your platinums read out, please come and join the Push2 Platinum Club. It is free. So look, if there is nothing else today, tonight, or this morning, Mindi, I think we have reached the point we can close out. And therefore, I would like to thank Mr. Folly for joining us. It is always a pleasure. I really do enjoy talking with you and the discourse. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your time with us today.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's been fantastic. I've had a great time.
Folly's Corner 2020, yes, no?
We'll see. Who knows? Maybe.
Thank you, Mindi, for joining me today. As always, where can we find you?
Twitter at themindisacity. I also have a Kofi page, ko-fi.com/themindisacity if you want to support my work. Just it's a couple of bucks. Leave me a tip.
Perfect. And Folly, I should do the same courtesy. I forgot. I apologize. If you are happy to be found, where could the listeners find you?
So you can find me. I am on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/FreddyTheFolly, but I am currently on a break from streaming. I'm not sure when that'll come to an end currently. Otherwise, I'm in your fantastic Discord, which everyone should definitely join. It's a really friendly group. Or find me on PSN profiles under Afraid of the Folly. Well, if there's anything you want to talk about, you can definitely reach out to me on there.
Perfect. So once again, listeners, I know we've hit 2 big episodes with you, but you're coming into holidays, use it while you're grinding away on whatever you're grinding on. And we will be back next week. In fact, I'm looking forward. I won't reveal it in case things happen, but I am looking forward to next week's guest. It's a little bit different, so you'll have to come and see who it is, I suppose. So if you're looking for us, we're available on all good podcast providers plus YouTube. If you have a question, comment, or concern, you can reach us on Twitter at push2plat, push the number 2plat, or email us at push2plat@gmail.com. If you'd like to get your platinum read out, come and join the Push2 Platinum Club. Just leave us a picture, the number, and if you have a little comment about the game as well, please do. It just helps us all find new fantastic games to play. We have a Discord. It'll be in the show notes. If you do want to come along and join and say hi, that would be fantastic. So until next week, listeners, have a great gaming week. Let the kids out of the basement. They do need to eat occasionally. Thank you. Thank you, Folly. Thank you, Mindi.
Thanks, CJ.
Bye.